I've been meaning to do this for the last 2 weeks, so finally managed to find some time to get this done. So those of you who've been following me on Facebook and Instagram, the other social medias that I use, will know that from the 5th of December to the 5th of January, as part of the documentary, then we set a challenge to say, okay, no social media for a month, and even moving from smartphones to phones. And those involved who couldn't commit to no social media, we had them on a no scroll policy, where you couldn't scroll through Instagram, you couldn't scroll through Facebook. If somebody messaged, if you're worried about people messaging you on Facebook, you're only allowed to use Facebook Messenger. And we got some really, really good, interesting feedback from the participants, which you'll see in the documentary when that goes live later on today. My own personal experience, I'm not a digital native, obviously. I'm 40 years old. I was born in 1978. I didn't have a smartphone until maybe 2011. Didn't see the point of them. And didn't like them, didn't like seeing people walk around with their heads buried in them. So I just kept using a Nokia, an old Nokia, until I think it probably was 2012 when I eventually succumbed and got my first iPhone. So I work online, and the given wisdom in the internet marketing world is you must be on social media, because it's all about engaging with an audience, engaging with your client. So I was like, oh, well, I guess it's part of my job. I guess I need to be in there. And so I found that I was using social media a lot. And then it got to the point where I wasn't just making posts on Instagram and doing Instagram lives and talking to people. I was actually scrolling through Instagram. And then I would find myself scrolling through Facebook. And eventually I got to the point where I was like, I think I'm using these in an addictive way, in a way that looks like an addiction. So if I was in traffic, if I was like in an Uber, like I was driving, or if I was in a queue, or if I was, waiting for something, anything where there was no stimulation coming in, instead of just sitting with my own thoughts and thinking or making plans or whatever, I pull my phone out and start scrolling, just like everybody else does. And I was like, oh, that's interesting. I noticed that if I didn't have my phone near me, I would become anxious. Oddly enough, through just a coincidence and a weird sequence of events, whilst we were still filming, then we were in the final phases of filming, the night that we were doing the final group interview for Plugged In, I was here in this office in the Liverpool Science Park with Richard Willett, and he'd forgotten like a plug or something for one of the cameras, and he had to go back across Liverpool at 5 o'clock at night, which is a nightmare, across Liverpool to Water Street by the Liver buildings to then come back here again. And he didn't have Uber set up, so I gave him my phone. And it was the first time I've been without my phone at all. I couldn't remember. I couldn't even tell you, oh, it was 2 years ago. Oh, it was 3 years ago. It's like, I don't remember not having my phone on me at all in the last few years. So I gave it to him, and tables in this office are glass. They're glass tables, and light reflects on them. So he leaves, and I've got a pen and a piece of paper. I'm making notes about what I'm going to ask the people for the group discussion, the interview. As I'm rocking forwards and backwards, light from overhead here is reflecting on the glass. And at one point, it flashed and it looked like my screen had come on my phone, but my smartphone wasn't here. I responded to it as though it was my phone, and my hand was reaching to grab it before I could consciously think. I was like, that's not your phone you've been with. That's light reflecting on glass. As soon as it glowed up, I was like, respond now. This goes beyond addiction. That's a conditioned response. When you saw the Sam Vaknin interview about the hidden toxicity of social media, you will have heard Sam say, listen, we know how to treat addiction, but conditioning is much, much harder to treat. And this response that we have to social media and our use of a smartphone, the conditioned response, not an addictive one. Conditioning takes much, much, much longer to undo, and it's a much bigger problem. When I was reaching for my phone, which didn't exist, it was just light on glass that was reflecting whilst I was writing, which I never do anymore, but my handwriting is terrible now. I just don't write. My internals, I laughed because I was like, oh, I was reaching for a phone that isn't there. That's how badly I'm missing my phone. So I'm seeing the ghost of my phone. I'm like, oh, I can see it everywhere because I'm in this attachment trauma. I'm in abandonment anxiety. Where's my phone? The state that I was in, when I noticed the emotional state I was in, I didn't feel particularly good. I felt agitated. I felt anxious. And the response that I had wasn't a choice. It was a necessity. It was like, I need to do something. Oh my God, my phone's going off. It's like a baby crying. My phone's going off. I must do something about it immediately. With my right hand, I put my pen down, stop writing the questions for the interview I know I've got to do, which is really important. Pick up my phone, which just happens to be the screen flashing, which could be anything. It could be like one of my mates on WhatsApp sending me a funny meme, or, it could be anything. It could be an alarm that I set for something I need to do yesterday. It was this agitated state that I went into, and my automatic response to something that was not there bothered me. So I said, okay, I'm going to do a month off. The research that has recently come out of the University of Pennsylvania said that there was, without a doubt, a positive correlation amongst young people between diminished social media usage and improved mental health. And they said, I think the suggestion was it would take like 4 or 5 days to see positive effects. So I switched off Facebook. I deactivated my Facebook, deactivated Instagram, deleted the apps from the smartphone. So I'm going to be tempted to go in there. I'd have to consciously download them, which I'm not going to do. And held my breath because I was like, oh, this is going to be hard. This is going to be uncomfortable. Painless. Totally painless. Not only did I not miss it at all. Oh, sorry, that's not true. That's not true. There was this moment of missing scrolling through stuff. Sometimes when I'd be in a social situation, which reminded me of smoking. Like, I used to smoke. I obviously, I was a master NLP practitioner who's addicted to smoking. I was like, I can't. It's crazy. You can't do that. So I'd identify trigger moments. And trigger moments for me was like, I used to go out a lot more to bars and clubs, and we could smoke in bars and clubs. And if I went to a place where there was any social anxiety about being in that place, especially if there was alcohol there, I would smoke. Smoking went with coffee, and smoking went with alcohol, and smoking went with me being out in a public place. And I'd say I turned up too early, or my friends are late and I'm there on my own and I felt some social anxiety, I would smoke. Maybe as a mask, maybe as a cloud, maybe as something to do to just pass the time, whatever. If I would identify those things, I'd be like, ooh, at those moments, I want to smoke. These are the moments that I need to be careful of. When you're doing hypnosis, obviously you've got to visualize being in those moments and not doing the smoking, doing some other positive behavior that replaces it. That's, positive, it's helpful, confidence building or life affirming or whatever it is. So with this, I noticed that when I was same situations, if I'm bored, if it comes down to this, if you're bored or you're lonely or you're not being stimulated, you'll reach for your phone. I was like, boredom and loneliness, right? That's interesting. What are we doing then? So we're sort of trying to self-medicate with a fast dopamine hit against feeling bad momentarily, just for like 15 seconds. So what can you do in that space? I was like, my brain goes, it's sad that you're even asking what to do on your own. Like, I was banging Zen meditation when I was 15 and 16 years old. I sat there doing Zen meditation after the Aikido classes, and later I was doing, like, I got more into chanting. It was the Hindu chanting for a couple of years, and I was into meditation, chanting, visualization. Then I'm like, have I regressed in some way? Why can I not just sit here and just be in the moment? One, and if you can't just be in the moment, there's tons of like disciplines, exercises that you've learned over the years. Just do that instead. So I figured that out, and I was like, okay, now I feel okay. So I did miss it. I said I didn't miss it. I didn't miss Facebook, and I didn't miss Instagram. I missed scrolling. I missed just like looking for stuff. What am I looking for? A good MMA highlight clip, simulation, something that is funny, like momentarily, or something that's cute, like a husky puppy falling asleep and farting and waking itself up, or something, just puerile. And that's the word that came to mind, is puerile. I think it's from Latin puris, which I think means of boys, of kids, the kind of thing kids would do. Puerile, it's a good word. And it came up a lot when I was thinking about my own experience of coming off social media. Didn't miss Facebook, didn't miss Instagram, possibly though, because there's a firewall there between me personally and my business, and me personally and my online avatar. So my online avatar isn't really me. I'm only on Facebook and Instagram for business purposes because internet marketing guru said, this is what you need to do. And I went, okay, and followed along. It's not true, by the way. I'll get into that another day. If you're an entrepreneur and you're into online marketing, the whole thing of social media being essential is worth a good review. There's probably one social medium that is appropriate for your business, if any. The two that I would now say, I just said I'm not going to get into it, but now I'm into it. YouTube, podcasting, probably no need to be anywhere else. Depending on what you do, like if you're in the fashion industry, you probably should be on Pinterest and Tumblr. If you're a dancer, you probably should be on Instagram, because as I understand it from one of the young people I interviewed in here, she said, she's at Lipper, she's a dancer. She said, like prospective people who are going to employ us will look at our Instagram. And I go, okay, that makes sense. So there's a fire break between me personally, the actual real me, and my online persona, my business avatar. So I can't be too smug about not missing it. I'll tell you the benefits that occurred, right? Like almost straight away, maybe within a day. The big thing that I would say is I started to think about the social media world as being puerile, childlike. Sam Vaknin said that during the interview. I didn't catch it that well at the time. I saw it on playback when Richard Willett pulled it out, the director of the Plugged In documentary, and showed it to me. And Sam says, it's an infantilizing medium. You have friends. You friend them or unfriend them. You like or dislike them. You either like me or you don't like me. You friend me or you defriend me. It's binary. It's binary. It's primary. It's infantile. It's puerile. So the first major positive things I noticed on a social media blackout was my self-respect improved. And that was the language that came out of the unconscious. I was like, I'm feeling differently. What is it I'm feeling right now? I feel more self-respect. Why? Like, what's so bad? What's so flipping bad about scrolling through Facebook? What's so flipping bad about scrolling through Instagram? And then I was like, well, for a start, it's not really for you. It's kind of like watching kids' cartoons. It's not designed. It wasn't designed by you, and it's not designed for you. And the people whose material you're watching, they don't have the same objectives, ambitions, and goals as you. They don't have the same experiences as you. They don't have the same priorities as you. You're living in their world. The theme tune for the documentary you'll hear playing in the credits is a song by Robin Kelly called Somebody Else's Dream, which you can look up. I think Richard Willett has now done a music video for that. And the lyrics are all around the idea of plunging yourself willingly or unwillingly, consciously or unconsciously, because conditioning is not conscious, of course, into somebody else's reality that you didn't choose. You don't choose the content. You don't choose what's there. So I noticed my self-respect went up. A few days later, I then noticed my capacity to concentrate single-mindedly improved. I didn't realize how fractured my consciousness has become. So it's infantilizing. I think it induces an ADHD, adrenophile, puppy jumping around from thing to thing mode, interacting with the world. And my consciousness started to go slow and steady. I could hold an idea in my mind for much, much longer. I didn't know I had that problem. I didn't know it'd gone away. I had no idea that like my capacity to think things through was fractured. What did I do? I started reading like real books and really enjoying them, and then just sitting there and thinking about what I read. And then I started writing. And I haven't written creative writing. I was doing creative writing, and I was writing poetry. I was like, oh, that's That's never really been a thing for me. Maybe a couple of times when I was in my late teens, you know, full of angst and stuff. But I started writing poetry, like obsessively, and going back to it and correcting it and making it prettier and going, no, that word too flowery. It could move here. Oh, that's much nicer. And I was like cultivating it's like verses. I'm going, never before in my adult life have I done that. Never been a time in my life. I'll tell you something. It was an enormously beneficial exercise for me personally. Don't ask me to share it because it's really dark. It's fucking super dark, nasty stuff. It made me feel good. It was like pulling splinters out that had gone septic. Where that was pulled out afterwards, it just felt really, really good. I was like, wow, I actually had something in me that I wasn't even aware of, and I've healed it using this methodology. It's not even psychology. Amazing experience, really, really amazing experience. And then the month was up, and I was like, okay, well, the month is up now. So the 5th or 6th, I think I left it a couple of days because I was busy with the stuff. I was a bit late getting back on. I went back on Instagram. I went back on Facebook. Just loading the apps made me feel, because obviously I'm going, okay, I know I have to do this. I know I'm going to do a video. So I'm super hyper vigilant. And I'm like, what the emotional literacy? I'm like, what's the emotion I'm feeling right now? I felt anxious loading the app up. I felt dirty loading them up. It felt weird. It felt like, again, puerile is the word, corrupting, not in like this silly thing to do, like a waste of time. I'm like, this is a fucking waste of human energy right now. I'm loading them up. I load up Instagram. I load up Facebook. I'd only done 4 weeks off. So the predominant mode of communication, it's Christmas time, so it's a family time, and I'm around people all the time, all of Christmas, which is, I find that tiring. Everybody laughs. Everybody was like laughing, going, "You're gonna disappear for a week after Christmas, aren't you?" And I went to Lisbon, and then I went to Gran Canaria. It was great. Spent time on my own. You sort of just need to do that. If I spend a lot of time around people, I need to take time out. I enjoyed it. I had a really, really good time. I was only talking to people face to face, and you get used to like normal adult interaction that's face to face. Instagram. Straight away, I read my personal messages. Facebook, I'm reading the way people are speaking to each other. And it was shocking to the point, I've only been out of it for 4 weeks, the point of being actually something that made me feel disturbed and uncomfortable for 24 hours. How incredibly rude people were being me to each other. I'm like, these are adults. These are adult human beings. These are human beings who've produced other human beings. They're like the parents of people. The level of aggression jumped out at me on the screen. It shocked me. I was like, wow, what have I done? I must have like really, really, where's this aggression coming from? Where is this white hot level of hostility coming from? And how did I let myself get to a point where I'd hyper-normalized it to think it was normal, hyper-normalized aggression and hostility online, to the point where people speaking to me like I'm a piece of shit on their shoe. I'm like, oh, it's the internet. That's just how people talk to each other. Now I'm like, I don't give a fuck what the medium is. I don't care. You can't talk to people like that. That's crazy. And the way it wasn't even personal. That's just how people talk to each other online now. Awful. No, not everybody, and certainly not the majority. It was too much. It was like 30 to 40% of the communication I was getting was outrageously hostile. Puerile again. I walked away from it. By the way, I've turned it off. Instagram and Facebook, I've turned it off. And like people are going, oh, so the social media blackout really worked and you really liked it and you're extending it. I'm like, yeah, it worked and I liked it. And I saw the positives of not being on social media. But the negative, like I'm not on there because I don't want to expose myself to that fucking shit show. It's awful. It's painful. But then a couple of things happen. I was like walking away from it and I'm like, what's happening here? Because people are saying there's this rise in cluster B personality disorders, and there's this problem online, and people behave in a very cluster B way online. I started to think about a couple of things. Okay, so you have puerility and infantileness. Then you have massive amounts of reaction-seeking behavior. That's what social media is designed for. You do something, you put a picture up of it, and then you get a response. That is negative, that is positive. It's a response. You're looking for reactions. Who are the social media influencers? The people who get the most and the strongest responses online. That's why horrendous human beings are, not all social media influencers are horrendous human beings. Many horrendous human beings become major social media influencers because they're master manipulators who are very good at reaction-seeking communication. But it's not just in what people post in terms of pictures and videos, it's also in the comments. And the stronger my comment is, the stronger my DM to you is, the more chance I have of getting a response. And the social media is training me, I must get a response, because if I don't get a response, I don't exist. So actually, not in the facile way only of the superficial way is to go, okay, well, you're taking pictures of yourself and the whole thing is just about you. So of course it's going to generate cluster B personality disordered response. It's going to encourage it. That's at I said facile, I should have said superficial. That's at the superficial level. At the first blush, you go, really, it's the mode of staring into a mirror. There's even that show by Charlie Brooker called Mirror, which is, about that mirror that is the smartphone that we stare into the abyss. The structural level, if you are being conditioned unconsciously to engage in reaction-seeking behavior, you have the very definitions of a core structure of a cluster B personality. How do I get responses from others? Not through offering value or service or kindness or empathy. Who cares? That's not the easiest way of getting it done. It's a much more criminal mindset. It's like the kid who's raised in an environment with a disinterested mother and an absent father. Everybody around him is criminal, wants to be significant. What's he going to do? He craves significance. He craves a need to be recognized. What's the easiest way of doing it? Join a gang, put a gun on somebody, point it in their face, and then go, give us your money, because now I'm significant. And if you give me your money and I kill you afterwards, now I have a reputation. And so you go, well, that's the line, how to build a criminal. Obviously, this is not happening with social media, but the mentality is the same. It's an environment in which only the most savage, the most hostile, the most aggressive are being rewarded. Who benefits from you being empathic and calm and kind? Nobody. Well, you don't. Like, you literally, the system will not reward you for that. So I just said, I'm not feeding that. I'm not feeding something that fractures people's attention, which it does, which is really bad. It stops people from looking at each other. Look at other humans. Look at them. Powerful. They want you to look at them. They want you to hear them. They want you to talk to them without doing this. Sorry, what are you saying? Oh, your boyfriend broke your heart. Yeah. No, I just saw these really beautiful dresses on Pinterest. How am I supposed to share with you? How am I supposed to be vulnerable and intimate with you when you've got one eye on the fucking screen? How are you? Like some of the people I interviewed, they said, yeah, I do that too. Even as they're sharing something of intimacy, the other person, they're scrolling, the person they're sharing with is scrolling, and the person sharing is also scrolling. That's probably not a great way of building trust and rapport, So captures consciousness, distances people from each other, creates this extremely malignant, malevolent, aggressive propensity towards reaction-seeking communication that is enormously hostile. Because the more hostile I am, the more of reaction I'm going to get. And the only thing that matters in this environment is reactions. That's all likes and follows are. Reactions. So you're being conditioned into reaction-seeking communication. Will I ever go back on Instagram? At this point, I really don't know. I think YouTube is a form of social media. It trains me, and I train it. I train myself in using it. I can't do anything here but offer value. If I come on here and I start, I don't know, in a dick or going off, people just unsubscribe and leave. So, you know, format works for me. It works for what I do. I could scroll. I guess I could scroll through YouTube videos, but I tend not to. That just isn't a thing that's happened. And what I've been doing, what I've been saying to other people, and what I've said to myself is limit screen time and no scroll. No scroll. It's like it's a simple rule. Just don't scroll. If you've got to answer something, if there's somebody of value, are you offering something of value? Are you receiving something of value? Okay, fine. I'm not going to sit here and say to people, switch off your smartphone, dump all social media, because nobody would listen, even if I did say that. I'm saying for me personally, what did Sam mention something? He said social media, especially Facebook and Instagram. You know, where you have where the big thing in the environment, the likes and follows. That's dangerous, because you have something called relative social positioning, and if you fail at that game, you will be shamed. You are shamed by not even by people who are like, ha, nobody's looking at your stuff. The medium itself shames you, because you can see through relative social positioning that other people are getting more of a response than you are. So it induces a lot of feelings of toxic shame. Relative social positioning, the liking, the following, and all that, it's poisonous for me. I'm Generation X, born in '78, not a digital native. It's hard for me to begin to imagine the effect it's having on somebody who got a smartphone in their hand, somebody who's born after 1994, and they would have had a smartphone in their hand by the time they're 12 years old. Because relative social positioning is the obsession of teenagers. It's natural. That's the time for relative social positioning. We used to do stuff. Everybody did this as teens. The real world is now being done online. It's kind of like, I think this is when I'm saying puerile. That's what I mean. I wouldn't sit there and watch a TV series that is designed for teenagers. I wouldn't. Boring. I'm not. Facebook and Instagram has this teen adolescent thing on it, weaponized, accelerated, magnified. It puts you into that mindset. Why is everybody talking to each other like a stroppy, hormonal, grumpy teen with no manners on the internet? Because that's what it's conditioning you to act like and think like. It's literally. Am I using the word literally correctly? I think I am. I think it's literally putting your consciousness into the mindset of a stroppy, grumpy teen. Where's the stroppiness and the grumpiness coming from in this environment? It's not that your parents are telling you you can't go out. The stroppiness and the grumpiness is coming from nobody's listening to me. It's clear as anything. You comes off the screen. People are so frustrated that they're not being heard, they're not being listened to. I don't want to be in that echo chamber, man. I can't carry that around in my pocket. I don't want to come home after going to the gym and then I go on the couch and then I pull it out of my pocket. And a person who doesn't know me, doesn't need really to be speaking to me, be screaming at me from this close, from as close as I can hold the screen to my face. It's not smart. I shouldn't let that person have that level of act. Like, I'm on the couch, finished at the gym, I'm chilling out, nearly time for bed. Some crazy stranger is yelling at me through my phone. Doesn't feel good. We're more sensitive than that. We're particularly sensitive to relative social positioning and dropping down a hierarchical structure. It doesn't feel good, even if it's only symbolic. So that was my experience. I think it's very, very, very poisonous. That's my humble opinion. Other people say, no, it's fine. You just need to moderate it. I think in and of itself, the infrastructure, the core infrastructure, is truly toxic. And I would just say, hey, try it, come off it for 4 weeks and see how you feel. See how you feel when you come off it. See if you feel less anxious, see if you feel less depressed, less pessimistic about the course of your life or your position in life. See how you feel. Try it for yourself. Okay. Thank you for your time and your attention, which is all social media is trying to harvest, according to Executive Director Mr. Sean Parker. He has said it openly and explicitly. The material, the medium is designed to harvest as much of your time and attention as possible. These are your two most precious resources. Thank you for spending some of them with me. Make sure you're very guarded in the future about where you continue to spend your time and your attention. Thank you.